Winds and Leaves is a virtual reality game where you play an ancient being known as the gardener, and you're trying to bring life back to a barren world by planting trees and growing forests. Vibe Avenue and Trébuchet, the studio that created Winds and Leaves, started together on Winds and Leaves, but since then have started working on numerous other collaborations. So working on Winds and Leaves recreated a bond between the two studios. So in the beginning, when Trébuchet explained us the concept of Winds and Leaves, we immediately thought about acoustic instruments, since everything was about nature, wind.
A lot of trees, a lot of organic material, and working with real live instruments that are physically made of wood makes sense. One of my favorite is this Native American flute that I bought maybe 15 years ago, and it has one of the softest sounds you could hear, and it's been handcrafted, and I really love it. So this is actually one of the first instruments we use for Winds and Leaves.
As the project went on, we realized that the art direction was really different from what we imagined in the first place.
The game evolved, and the pictures changed to not necessarily a perfectly realistic environment, but something with way more textures and beautiful colors.
Really, really flashy and vibrant, so you have red trees or blue trees, or all kinds of colors, and the world is really represented in a much more stylized way. And
it just became natural to think of other types of instruments, and using synths definitely became our number one priority for the rest of the soundtrack. Plus, we bought a bunch of cool synths and we wanted to use them.
So, for example, one of our dear companions for this journey was this small, strange little device called the OPZ or OPZ. And it's actually a self-contained synthesizer and sequencer. This is an instrument that is really geared toward performance. So with some other pieces of gear, we really recorded sounds and then edited them in the DAW and created the pieces of music. But for music created with this, it was really more performative, so really plugging once the piece was composed and performing it, and then still a few changes afterwards, but 80% of the material was already recorded in one performance. The iPad was another one of our dear companions. We tried a lot of music apps on it, like Animoog or Borderlands Granular, and really discovered that the ecosystem of applications for iOS is completely different from what you can find in the computer. And also the use of the touchscreen allowed us to create really expressive instruments for the soundtrack. We also kept using acoustic instruments, but this time we processed them to find new ways of using them, and also looked for original sounds and original ways of making music. For example, one of the pieces is actually made with a sampled empty champagne bottle and the Tibetan bowl, and both of them processed to create some interesting textures.
So something really cool about the score is, even though we really started acoustically and then we flipped over and started really working with analog synths, in the end we came back to using just a hybrid approach, bringing back some real live musical interpretation.
Of course, besides the music itself, there is its integration into the game, and VR in this aspect is particularly challenging. And for this game, we really wanted the music to actually emanate from the world and not just be played like in 2D in your ears.
We met multiple times just to discuss, what the game would eventually be and try to talk about the dynamics of sound, of music, and how both of these universes could interact together to create a really united soundscape and not just have, music on one side and sound on the other side. Both, like in Winds and Leaves, this is really something where both sound and music are really closely linked together to create something beautiful.
The best way to experience this soundtrack is to actually play the game and to hear this symphony, this music be created in real time by the game as you bring life back to the world. We really wanted the player to feel like the conductor of this symphony, and the music to actually be the personification of the living energy of the world.